the First Lady of Sports, Rachel Hill.
What's up? What's up? What's up? You are listening to her in the huddle on WOVU and 95.9 FM. This is your girl, Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports, and I am here in the house today. It is not a Victory Monday. It is a what in the world are the Browns doing on Tuesday? So we have Irie Harris from the Cleveland.com. He is a Browns beat reporter, and Sapphire is going to be joining us soon. So let's just go ahead and get it going. Irie, how you doing today, sir? What's going on?
Happy Tuesday to you. As you said, a victory, after the cold days, definitely a sense of what's going on. But all else is fine. How about yourself?
I'm doing okay. I'm just kind of wondering what's going on with this team.
I think we all are.
I mean, were you expecting them to make a move even for Jacoby Brissett? Because the reports that have been coming out was that they were serious about getting him. We thought that, it might have looked good, even though I wasn't a fan of bringing Jacoby Brissett in because I don't feel as if he might be a centimeter better than what you had before. But, I wasn't looking at him to really make this team any better because, when he's had the opportunity to have come from behind victories in the fashion that the Browns have had lately, minus Seattle, he hasn't been able to get it done. There's been an interception, there's been a turnover, things of that nature. So I wasn't exactly happy about him necessarily coming back.
Yeah, I've seen some comments or some critics feel that Jacoby or even Joshua Dobbs coming back would have been an upgrade at backup. Personally, I don't feel that same way. I feel those two, along with PJ Walker, are all within the same, tier regarding backupness. But I also do think that because of Sunday's ending, the mindset going out amongst the management probably was that if not for that play and that occurrence happening, then they walk out with the win. So I think it's a sense of giving PJ Walker the doubt and saying, all right, he's showing us that he can improve and go out with this. So we'll stick with them.
My concern is that he's at a 50%, below 50% completion rate, and he is the only quarterback in the league to be under that. So I don't know what the Browns are expecting. I was kind of rage Facebooking, the other day, and I just, put a comment how I felt about Kevin Stefanski and PJ Walker and, my thoughts about, this was a game that we should have won. This was a game that we should have had. They had multiple opportunities. They were deep in Seahawks territory, and they just wasn't able to convert, excuse me. So that's definitely a concern for this team going forward is that you can't, and then they couldn't even get a field goal range, to have Dustin Hopkins be able to kick field goals for them. So, that's just the issue with them, being able to move the ball. Now, you held Seattle to 9 straight 3-and-outs. Not 3-and-outs, but they were not able to convert on third down. So I give a lot of props to the defense, but at the end of the day, it was an offense that let us down. Hey, Sapphire, how you doing?
Good, good. How's by you both today?
We're just kind of figuring out what's going on with this team and how they didn't make any moves today to get any better. They got rid of DPJ. So what was the point of that, Irene?
Honestly, because if you've watched the past games within this season, I won't even include the return game aspect, but more so within him on the field, within the 3 to 4 wideouts, whether it was intentional or not, he's been used more so as a decoy for an Elijah Moore or for a David Njoku. They've just kind of had him out there to say, hey, this is the guy that we felt could have been our WR2 prior to the season. Let's keep him out there and kind of use him as that disguise to the opportunities for the rest of our guys. And of course, it takes two to tango. At the same time, as a wide receiver, to make sure he's creating enough separation, he also needs to have a quite adequate quarterback to be able to make that connection. It didn't happen much for him this season. And on top of that, he didn't really give much contribution within the punting, in the punt return area. Now, could there be a benefit of doubt or a slight excuse as to saying maybe he wasn't prepared for it, thinking Jerome Ford would be the one prior to the Nick Chubb injury? Okay, you can get that. But still, you have to be ready when your number is called and when it comes to returning. And he just hasn't done it at all.
His average was 7.5 yards a return. which was terrible. We got a comment from George. Hey, George, what's up? He said he expected DPJ to be moved. Didn't expect the team to stand pat and not make their team better. Andrew, did the Northeast wind fly by past you on the lake and apprehensive? Andrew, did the Northeast wind fly past you off the lake and apprehensive? So I guess George is asking, do you think that management was apprehensive about making a move? And if so, why do you think?
Oh, me, Zach. I thought you were asking Sapphire.
Oh, you're fine. I was just saying that you think that they were apprehensive about making a move, or they're just, well, obviously they felt like they were good with what they had, but their quarterback play has been abysmal. And I don't mean to dump on PJ Walker, but it just is what it is. And I don't feel like this team can get to the playoffs if his play continues to not be great.
I totally agree with that. I mean, hands down. And for me, just to catch everyone up here, I will say again, I wasn't expecting the Browns to win that game yesterday. You're traveling to the West Coast. You got the climate change, the time zone change, and for me, when I think about the way the defense has been performing at an ultra superior level for the last few weeks, I mean, it made sense. The players looked tired. They were missing tackles. They weren't holding on to clear interceptions, right? Like sooner or later, the laws of nature catch up. For me, this was the type of game for the offense to step out and reciprocate that level of play and intensity. This is the way that I look at the game. Like stats aside, we could talk about the turnovers. We could talk about, and rightly so, PJ's underwhelming performance. When you look at his stats, we have a problem. And I'll say again, when I look at the next 3 weeks, the next 3 games, if we lose that Cardinals game, going to Baltimore, losing that game, I actually think it could be a deal breaker for one Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah, I feel the same way too. Irene, what were your thoughts going into that Seahawks game? Did you feel that they could win? Because I felt like that they could win that game, and I thought that they were going to win the game before the game actually took place. Because you had so much hype about the 12th man, and how Seattle is a tough place to play, and I know sometimes the Browns can surprise you, and the 12th man wasn't very effective because they shut them up. When they came back from behind and they held the lead for a little bit, and the 12th man probably thought that, hey, Seattle's going to lose this game until Seattle did what they did at the very end. But I felt like this was a very winnable game. I thought that the Browns were going to win. They didn't. But like I said, I thought that they were going to win because, like I said, they surprise people sometimes. And I just thought the stars were going to align because everybody's talking about how tough it is to play, blah, 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 blah. But the Browns win the games that they're not supposed to win. But what were your thoughts going into this game? Did you think that they could beat Seattle?
I did. I actually, amongst my colleagues, I was the only one amongst us that had predicted the Browns to win. The others had predicted that Seattle to win. So I was alone in that group, but I really was confident. Not so much with them thinking, okay, this will maybe be the game where the offense tips out, but let's just go defensively first. Multiple times, well, from last week versus Indianapolis to now versus Seattle, these are offenses that they don't always go up against. We've seen the multiple motions that they've had to encounter. I felt like the defense they eventually learned from that from last week versus Indianapolis, and they caught on to it eventually versus Seattle. I mean, you saw how they allowed them to score 17 points in the first quarter. Not a single other point scored again until the very end of the game, as we had seen when they had let that go. But within their resilience on that, the offense eventually would step up, primarily because, as we saw, there was a switch to where Stefanski played to Walker's strengths, and that was primarily within the short passing game. Like, there are some passes that on paper are going to show they were deep, whether they were 25 yards or the 41-yard reception by Pierre Sean Jr., but these were passes that were made within the short area, the intermediate section, and then they ran down and grabbed the extra yardage. The more and more they did that, the more his confidence built, the more he was moving more elusive. I mean, the multiple times I saw him move out of the pocket and doing things, I'm like, wait, he had that in his bag, even running head on at Seattle's Jordan Brooks, like these were things that helped build up his confidence. And we saw they were able to keep a hold on them. And on top of that, and I know we will transition into this eventually, but when it came to the run game, that was a Seattle run defense that had gone into that Sunday allowing only the sixth fewest rushing yards per game at just 87.2. The Browns run game had a total of 155. This is not the first time this run game post Nick Chubb has gone out and, broken down and put up over half of what a run defense would usually allow. So that goes within transition. But yes, I did feel confident that they could have gone in and beaten Seattle. And they did. Well, we're going to at least until
I love how you said that.
The last 120 seconds, but yeah.
Yeah,
it's curious that you mentioned that, the last 120 seconds, because I did have a little PTSD going back to that Jets game last year when we lost that game with less than like 2 minutes. I wasn't even 2 minutes. And those are the things as a fan, when I watch the game, I think, what did I see yesterday that made me feel confident in terms of game management and play calling? The Browns learned from that home defeat last year to the Jets with less than 2 minutes left. I continue to wonder, and you make a very good point when you talk about in the middle part of the game, like I thought PJ was hitting a stride. He wasn't throwing like bombs down the field. Whoever was calling the plays clicked on to something with him. And you're right, there's going to be a benefit to him. I just feel like Stefanski is not patient enough to stick with that, because it seemed like we got away from that later in the game. And I also, and maybe you can help me, young man, I did not understand throwing that tight end out to Bryant instead with David on the field and blocking. I didn't understand why that wasn't David we were throwing to, given what he showed us in yesterday's game. So those are examples for me of what drives me bat dingle crazy about Stefanski. Because again, God bless him, he just seems like a Madden style coach. Ooh, I see these plays, I'm going to call these plays. And he's not even looking at the players he has on the field and translating those players to that playbook. And that to me is what separates him from being what some people hype him to be, this phenomenal offensive calling head coach.
Yeah, when I do agree. I thought about that a bit after the game too, when seeing that they wanted Amari to be the one to be the target to put the final dagger on the game. And I was thinking like, wait, why Amari if they're already covering tight coverage on him the entire game? I mean, the first time they had approached a 3rd and 3 earlier, a few plays prior in that series, we know that it was an incomplete pass that could have led to a 4th down, but Seattle's Tariq Woolen was called for an illegal use of hands while using tight coverage on Amari. Mm-hmm. So they're going to do it again on another 3rd and 3 and said, we know what happened on that. I also agree with that regarding going to somebody else, maybe David. It was more so, and I believe it or not, as much as we may criticize and speak about Stefanski's play calling, I do try to give just a tad bit of leeway, just a tad bit, because of those moments where something works and it's like, okay, yeah, see, there is that, but there is no defending, especially after yesterday, because if anything, that would be a lovely frame, picturesque, perfect football moment right there for insanity. You don't do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. It doesn't work the first time. What makes you think it's going to work the second time? Instead, you try it again and see what's going to happen. And surely the defense is not going to be, they don't have a clean zone in this either. They should have done much better, allowing 57 yards to 5 plays, but that could have been prevented with a much better, more advanced play call in that situation, a game in which they had it.
And see, you're hitting on it right there, because I don't know Kevin Stefanski. I'm certain he's a nice human being. I mean, he's articulate. He toes the party line. He's consistent. But when I think about being a Browns fan for, I'm trying to get my math right now, at least 53 years, right? I watched the first Monday night football game sitting on my father's lap, okay, at Muni Stadium, Browns, Jets. I think about the legacy that we true Browns fans have. It's one thing to lose, but it's another thing to lose for reasons that we feel like we should have learned from, right? And that's the thing with Stefanski. And I don't know that that gets fixed. I don't know that the Browns have just decided we're going to ride with this guy to the end of the year and just let him, as 357 burn the what down. I don't know. I just don't see him being an agile offensive play caller. And that is what is needed. We've got enough talent, positional talent on this team to be competitive. Yes, we have a quasi subpar quarterback. But if you look at the middle part of that game yesterday and what they set up for PJ to do, those short passes like you're talking about, I believe there's enough there with PJ and with whoever was calling those plays to flex, to adjust their play calling so it suits him more. Like, I just don't understand, and I feel bad. Honestly, I gave the whole team credit for the loss, offense, defense, special teams, like everybody stuck it up, right? Coaches. And I hate that because I thought yesterday was a golden opportunity for the offense just to pay it back. And I don't think we're getting that from Stefanski. And I think he's stuck and just not able to just recognize, okay, look, I don't have A++ quarterback or A++ receiver, whatever's in his mind. Let me just simplify my playbook a little bit and get everyone into a flow and let the athleticism of these athletes come out and dictate the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny because if anybody that wants to know more about me or read more of my work, if you were to look up and see my prediction post before the season has started, I think I had put down that week 7 through 9 was like the scariest part to me. So not even including San Francisco, but because these are games notoriously, as you guys know as fans, that the Browns notoriously will drop. Teams that they are better than on paper, but somehow whether it's the different style of play that non-divisional non-conference team brings that brings, then it just kind of breaks them down and blindsides them. And yeah, it does kind of just when you think about the play calling and just how there's no sense of getting it rough, working to just slide by if needed, and trying to do too much and look pretty. And it's funny because they went up against the team Seattle, whose coach Pete Carroll, I would say, is known for that. It doesn't matter what kind of roster he comes in with; he's usually and always finding a way to win. Like, how many fans could you say off the bat remember that Seattle actually made the playoffs this past season?
Right.
They probably can't even name 5 players on the team, but that's just what he does.
Yep.
So it's quite funny that we're mentioning this, and the coach that he loses to is a coach known for that. And that's a trait that Stefanski has yet to display that he really has earned.
Yeah. Like, I'm pulling for the guy. I really am. First of all, he's a Philly guy, right? We know what that means. But I'm pulling for him, and it's hard. It's tough because just to go through another coaching change and all of that and system, like, we have enough to get us across the sands. We absolutely do. So I appreciate what you just shared. And I'm just, this is the game. To me, this week versus the Cardinals is a must-win game. I don't care if it's by half a point. It is a must-win game because I'm trying not to look down there on I-95 at Lamar, okay? I'm trying not to.
Yeah, it's gonna be bad. This is it. Not this is it, but this is definitely a make or break at this point in the season.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I got some comments. George says Seattle should have ran beast mode to win a Super Bowl, but didn't and threw inside their opponent's goal line. But the Browns should have ran the ball down the Seahawks' throat with 3 yards to make to close out for a W. Kevin overthought this just like Pete Carroll did a time ago. All Sports, All Plays Network says, what's up? Jay Ness, hope you're doing well. And then George says, I do one better for you, Sapphire. Being a 4-year-old watching the Browns on the old Sears Kenmore TV with Leroy Kelly running the rock. Your colleague, Miss Sapphire, this was for you. By the way, thank you for the good Art Modell for being the team to play on Monday night. So yeah, Monday night. Art Modell started Monday Night Football. But Irene, I want to go back to something that you were saying a little bit earlier. You were talking about PJ building up his confidence with a lot of screenplays, which are actually working in the game. So I don't know why that they didn't continue to do those. But do you think that what helped him was a yards after catch, and people actually being able to get those yards, because that's something that doesn't really come easy for us. So we were able to get a lot of yards after catch, which I think helped him out. But also, what can possibly be done about these turnovers? Because all the turnovers in the game, came because of him. So Sapphire is willing to give Kevin Stefanski grace. I am not. I'm not a big fan of Kevin Stefanski. Situations like that. What do you think they should have did on the 3rd and 3? And then the second question about what can possibly be done to limit PJ's turnovers.
So yeah, to answer the first question on the play, I would have gone with something that had worked for majority of the game, because as I've said prior, this guy likes to run through defenders like they're a pile of small kegs. I would have given it straight to Kareem Hunt, who would have powered his way through and up the middle for 3 yards. This guy had 55. I mean, we're talking 3 yards here. This guy averaged nearly 14 carries for 55 yards during that game. So he averaged just around that per carry for the game. I think he would have been able to do that just fine. If they were still going to go with the pass play, I would have not gone to Amari Cooper, just because he displays once in a while each week why he's one of the best in this position. So especially at the end of the game situations, they're going to make sure whether it's single coverage or double coverage, they're running tight on him. And secondly, regarding the turnover sense, it's more so like interesting, because the turnovers that Tucker had, and a couple of days back, the first one I believe was quite overthrown to David Njoku. That was a little, whether it was miscommunication or Seattle's pressure that kind of came through and was effective early on in the game. Whether that had happened, so be it. The second one, believe it or not, I do want to give a little leeway to, because when do we see Jamal Adams or a football player that make a soccer-esque play with their helmet doing that, batting the ball up in the air? So that's the slight only benefit of the doubt that I give. But regarding keeping him from doing so, I still have to say within the screen passes and taking their time. Like, there's no reason to rush the ball and have to rush the game. The type of quarterback you're playing with, the type of offense you're gonna have to roll with Walker in the pocket. So take your time, get the ball up if needed. If anything, keep a balanced attack at that. Because remember, they had gone 68 plays versus San Francisco in that win. Half of them were pass plays, half of them were rush plays. If anything, I would say going forward to do a little more rush plays compared to pass plays.
Yeah, and this is the part where I think Kevin Stefanski outsmarts himself. For somebody that went to Penn, Ivy League school, I know Kareem Hunt, felt a special type of way, but why go away from what's working? And you were gashing them on the run. So I don't understand why you would go away, especially from a situation like that where Kareem Hunt, all your running backs, they use 3 running backs, on Sunday, and all the running backs were getting good yardage, especially like Pierre Strong and stuff like that. So, fortunately, PJ is that iffy passer. So, sometimes, 1 or 2 yards is hard for him to get. They had some shovel passes and stuff like that, some great passes in the game. But when the game is on the line like that, you put the ball in somebody like Kareem Hunt's hand, or you put the ball in Pierre Strong's hand, because that running had been working for you. And I just don't understand, why he got away from that, which led to the downfall and the loss of the game.
He's a Madden player. He's got to use all of the tools in the box. It doesn't matter if it fits the situation. Like it infuriates me. I totally agree with what you're saying. Like me, I would not have even put Jerome Ford on that field. That last game, it just felt like he was uninspired, right? And I look at Pierre Strong. He's trying to make a name for himself. We already know where Kareem's heart is, right? I'd have just rolled with them to be consistent coming out of the previous game into this one. Again, it's not always about stats. It's about a flow. It's about a feel to me, right? And God bless Goodwin. Can someone tell me why he's even on the team? Are they using him? I mean, look, what? 1 carry, -5 yards? Like, what are they doing? Someone help me, please.
Using wide receivers as running backs. It worked once with Elijah Moore, and then not much afterwards. So they just kind of switched it off to Goodwin. But I do also just want to say real quick too, it is quite funny when I think about it now because, as I said last week, this isn't the same chant as when pleading for Nick Chubb to have more carries. This is not that same exact chant because the running game has proved to be very effective. This season, even after Nick Chubb's injury. I mean, Sunday versus Seattle was the first time that a passing touchdown was accounted for in the game since Deshaun Watson played in Week 3 versus Tennessee. You're thinking about that long of a gap to we didn't see a single touchdown be accounted for by the quarterback as a pass. That's so, and they're still being able to win. That tells you that the run game is having some type of benefit to the offense. But at the same time, I don't think we should be surprised anymore if he elects to pass more compared to run, because we've said this is nothing new. We're honestly a broken record when speaking about having to use the run in situations like those, using the run to your own benefit when it's breaking down the opposing run defense, and he's still going to go for the pass. So if Arizona, God forbid, they're in the same exact situation, I'm going to expect the pass because he's shown over and over again that's what he prefers. From last year with Jacoby Brissett all the way to now with PJ Walker.
Because it's not working. As evidenced by Sunday, it's not working. And, we're talking about, mistakes, which, is in wins and losses. And I guess I get his train of thought, but it's just not good enough. And, you go with what's working for you. And I think that Seattle defense was gashed. They were tired because they had been on the field. They had been able to stop the run. You had some decent runs. I think being a defensive back and things like that is kind of easy because you don't have too much to worry about other than Amari Cooper, and somebody was open on that play as well. When you threw it to Amari Cooper, if he's being double covered and they're sending safety help over the top, then you got an open person, and PJ's not seeing that person. So that's an issue as well. His, in-game awareness and stuff like that. There's plenty of replays where you see people are open and he's just not hitting them.
Yeah, I also real quick. I also believe they had 2 timeouts. By the time, actually, no, they were just under 4 minutes during that drive before the interception, and they had called their first timeout the second half. So whether you're gonna want to argue that, running it down and then to a third down, either way, the 2-minute warning was approaching. The clock was going to stop at some point. You didn't have to exactly call a timeout. And even then, let's say that they don't get let's say that the third down is not converted, but then you have their punter, Corey Porquez, who had, I believe, averaged around 47 yards per punt amongst those 3 punts. But the more than possibly could have been able to kick it inside Seattle's own 20. There's just multiple things, multiple
factors.
Elements within this situation in which they were diving into and kind of just, simplify it. And it definitely is giving a headache now.
Yeah. Because you're a fan. That's what it is. And you're young. Okay. Like, I saw DPJ, he's up in, congratulations, Donovan. Okay. You're on a squad. You're going to get opportunity. I just don't understand why that wasn't Harrison Bryant, right? Like, I think about, I'm going back to that play in the third quarter. The difference, it could have even been with DPJ out there running that route. Like, I just don't get it. It is so doggone frustrating.
Well, do you think, and Sapphire Irie, you wasn't here yet, but I feel like DPJ had his most success with Baker Mayfield.
I think he was utilized a heck of a lot more when Midget Mayfield was here, so it's like anything. You do something enough times, you're going to have a higher probability of success versus just, a few times. So I think he's going to be very effective for the Lions, and I'm genuinely happy for him because he was not being utilized here.
Yeah, and he went to Michigan too, so a little home cooking as well for him. But Irie, do you think that Kevin Stefanski doesn't know how to make in-game adjustments?
I would say that what he has shown and what he has displayed does not give much confidence within him being able to do that. I would say that if he has, more than likely the credit is given to him while the work was done by somebody else within the staff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that game against San Francisco looked a lot different offensively with Alex Van Pelt calling some plays, and people were saying that they don't think he ever will again. But with the success that they had against San Francisco, and understand, they were just a few feet away from winning that game. Do you think that AVP might be calling some plays and stuff like that in the future? Because you can't count on Kevin Stefanski to call the right play.
Very possibly, even if AVP were to sit out and not be at the game for the first 55, 57 minutes within that in-game scenario, yeah, they're more than likely going to have to turn to him now because what confidence is Stefanski giving?
You gonna ask me that question, Rachel?
Huh?
You gonna ask me that question?
Yeah, same question for you, Sapphire.
Yes, he'll be calling all of the plays when Kevin Stefanski packs his bags and rolls out of town. And
Mhm.
it should not take until the end of the season. We know what we're looking for. We know what we're looking for as Browns fans. Every play that is called on the offensive side and the defensive side, we know we've seen enough of this. It is time to execute or take your check and thank you so much for your contribution. That's where I'm at as a Browns fan.
That you want Kevin Stefanski gone at the end of this season, correct?
If they don't win that game next Sunday, yes.
Okay, that's fair. We got a comment from George, and then we're going to let you go, Irie, because we appreciate the time that you gave to us. George says a simple play sheet tailored to PJ and plays that work for him might be a help. A running game also helps every time, and I think that they ran the ball very effectively against Seattle. It was just that situation play calling, which I've heard that term be used since the loss, is that Kevin Stefanski struggles in situational play calling, and I agree. I understand, why his thought process was when he threw the ball 3 times when you had, when you were on the 1 yard line and, Kareem was able to run it in. It's like, why wouldn't you trust him this game as well? When players are coming up to you saying, can we run the ball? Can we run the ball? I mean, I don't understand when, players are asking you because players are out there, they know what's working, they can see the inner fine tunings of what's going on in the line, who's moving, what blocks they need to have. But you're not doing it. It's just like you're stubborn, and the players are telling you, what is working out there, and you're just not listening.
Yeah, I think you hit the head on. If we're speaking about this and suggesting and thinking what we feel you should be doing, and the players seem to, yeah, the players seem to agree with this and are pleading and begging them to do so, I think you have your answer right there. I think you have your answer right there.
It's a
Which is
trust
fair.
thing. It's a trust thing. Your boots on the ground are reporting back their reconnaissance, right? I mean, I make analogies like that. Your boots on the ground who are in the thick of it are reporting back to you real time. This is what's up. This is what we can do. And as a head coach, you don't seemingly factor that into your play calling. Says a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, I'll be there, out in the field tomorrow and during the week, of course. But I'm very curious to see how the dynamic is this season. As I've said, the defense, they're all for one for all, always laughing, giggling. The camaraderie is there, so I feel that won't change up. I'm curious to see the dynamic within this offense because honestly, when talking to seeing some of those guys talking, they were looking quite stressed. They're just kind of like, all right, we're waiting for this offense to finally, get going and get these
Yep.
opportunities and points on the board. I'm curious after Sunday how the dynamic is going to change or really shift after that.
Well, please remember you said that because I'm going to be all over that question when you come back at the next show.
Can't wait.
Right, here he goes.
Well, Irie, we want to thank you so much for your time. As usual, we appreciate you being here. We're looking forward to talking to you next week, and hopefully it's after a Browns victory.
Thanks a lot. I look forward to being back here next week. Hopefully, yes, talking about a win. I need to see some. I need to see some smiles from you. So come on.
Thank you, right?
Because
Coach
I'm smiling right now.
baby.
Giving major side eyes. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and take a break really quickly. You're listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. We'll be right back. Thanks, Irie. We appreciate you.
No
Get a bun
problem.
diggity.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Talk to you
No
soon.
problem. Thank you. I appreciate it. See you guys soon.
Bye,
Okay.
Irie.
Bye.
Bye.
I love him. Am I coming across okay?
Thank you to our Executive Director, Ms. Joy Johnson. For more information on how you can become a part of Burton Belcar Community Development, visit bbcdevelopment.org or call 216-341-1455. That's 216-341-1455. That's right. Jobs are available with us at BBC. And this has been brought to you by WOVU 95.9 FM. Our voices united. Burton Belcar Community Radio.
Welcome back to Her in the Huddle with Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports.
Welcome back to Her in the Huddle on WOVU and 95.9 FM. Remember to show up and show out to the biggest party in the city on Saturday, November 18th. WOVU and 95.9 FM, our voices united right here at 7201 Kinsman, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. We're celebrating 5 years on the airwaves and giving away 500 turkeys with the fixings and a few Cornish hens. Saturday, November 18th at 7201 Kinsman, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Be there and help us celebrate 5 years. Don't miss out. You can always give us a call at 216-271-0959. Always make sure you're listening on your regular radio dial at 95.9 FM. You can download the WOVU app and listen to us on the go. You can also listen online at WOVU.org. And like I just gave the phone number for the station, but it's 216-271-0959. It is me and Sapphire today. No Eddie, no Brandy. Brandy is on assignment at the Cleveland Cavaliers game. So Cavs have a pretty big game coming up tonight. They had no Darius. No, I forgot his name. Questionable is Donovan Mitchell. Questionable is Karis LeVert. They don't have any Jared Allen. So, Sapphire, what are your thoughts? Because right now this team is at 1-2, and they're going into a tough game, a back-to-back against the New York Knicks here tonight, and then tomorrow in New York. What are your thoughts about this matchup, the injuries we have, and how the Caps are doing so far?
I mean, I didn't hear that any of the Knickerbockers players were injured, so I expect a shellacking because our primes are not going to be out there. I think it's the right decision not to have our starters out there if they're injured. This is extremely early in the season. There's no reason to risk, when you hear about hamstring injuries, rest them up. Just rest them up, right? This is an opportunity to look at what we have left on that bench. The games that I looked at, our bench play continued to be very suspect. Give those men some time. Let's see what it looks like. So, I mean, to me, there's no, stressor about it. Yeah, they're 1-2. I was very encouraged by what I saw from, I cannot pronounce his name correctly, but Max
Strus.
Yeah. And it was curious because on one of the breaks, they played a short video and they were asking the players what of their teammates really impressed them, which one. And Max said, my guy, Harrell. He is a sleeper. Great outside jump shot. Once he gets into a flow, to me, he could be someone that comes off the bench that sustains us while we are giving our starters the break that they need.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to take a look at him tonight. And, I just don't feel any kind of way about the game, but I'm excited to look at it to see, what gets put out there on the court. My thoughts.
Yeah, because bench issues have been a problem for us. And that was one of the things, against the New York Knicks that, was one of the reasons why we lost that series, beyond just, not being aggressive. I don't look at it as a toughness thing, though. A lot of people have been harping on this toughness thing. I just think that, they were out positioned and out rebounded. And, I looked at it as, just New York wanted it more. Because I'm talking about toughness. I don't try to question a man's toughness. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's a little disrespectful, so I stayed away from that. But Jarrett was like, there were other reasons that they lost. Jarrett was like, the lights were too big for us. But I'm like, well, you played in New York before, so I mean Brooklyn, but it's kind of the same thing. So, excuse me, I was a little surprised to get that quote out of him, but. I just looked at it, as, Donovan Mitchell was double teamed the whole series. So, that's forcing other people to beat you. And they didn't feel as if Isaac Okoro could beat them. So they left him open and double teamed the other guys. Also, when Isaac was out there, he wasn't going to stop Jalen Brunson. So, and then I forgot what's his name. Julius Randle didn't even have the best series. Mm-hmm. So Julius Randle was kind of, not Julius Randle, but Jalen Brunson was pretty much all of their offense. So, the inability to stop him on the defense side is one of the reasons why the Cavs lost that series. But, I don't like questioning a man's toughness. So what are your thoughts about that?
I mean, for me, it's not about the man, it's about the athlete. Okay. So I agree with you. I don't take it down to that like mitochondrial level sort of thing and get into gender, but it's about the athlete. It's about how committed is the athlete to his craft. Okay. And executing and working within the system. And I'm going to go back to something that you said. You're a little surprised that, he said it really hearkened. And I'm talking about Jared Allen. What Julius Randle said, the post-series presser, which I totally agreed. The Cavaliers last year were where the Knickerbockers were the year before. You do have to get that taste. You got to go out there. You got to experience not just you're in the playoffs, but the whole. I agree with what you shared, Allen's sort of, description of where the team was at. I think this year will be very different, right? I'm very excited about Okoro, what he showed me in these few games. Look, the way he was cutting from the wing, come on. He looked more aggressive to me, right, than Mobley. All due respect, where is our interior game? Show me that tonight. Put my big on that block, okay? And, move the ball, move the offense around that. You got shooters. I don't need to see my 7-footers out there, on the perimeter taking those shots. At least give me an up fake and an aggressive drive to the hole. So for these reasons and more, I'm excited to see early in the season what we look like without our primes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's one of the things that Evan Mobley said at Media Day, that he's going to be shooting more threes. And I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because I don't feel like he's not very successful shooting them. So I don't agree. I understand, working on your all-around game, but you're not going to be a Dirk Nowitzki. You're not going to be, Jokic, or whatever like that. You're not going to be a great shooter like them. Yeah, you possibly could, with a little bit of time and a little bit of work, but it's just, you need to work on your inside game first and foremost. You need to get comfortable underneath the basket. He's put on 7 pounds of muscle, but he's still skinny.
Where?
So he can get pushed around a little bit. Girl, I don't know. Don't ask me. Maybe his head or something like that.
At least for me, when I hear that, because I miss that, it's unfortunate, right? I don't like for players to come out and say things like that, because I'd like to think the coaches who are paid pretty handsomely still have an ability to coach up, right? To help that player develop a complete game. When I looked at them picking up TT, I thought, okay, Jared Allen is out right now. I mean, who knows when he's coming back? But in this moment, if you are going to have your 7-footer out there in the perimeter shooting, put a big man down there that can crash the boards, right? Mm-hmm. Those are the types of things I'm looking for. So I don't know. I just I guess I was a little kind of like, wow, it didn't look like Mobley put on a pound to me. And when I think about as the season moves forward and how much more physical, especially with this new play-in, right? Because now the men are motivated. What is that? $500,000 for the winners per player? So
I don't
mean,
understand that tournament.
Listen,
somebody asked me about it today, and I was like, I don't get it.
It's really curious how they're doing it, and I think that it is. I'm excited to see it, right? Because they're going to use, from what I understand, just a high level overview. They're going to take the team's records from last year and use that to divvy up each conference's. I think it's like 3 different sets of 4 teams, and I don't want to get too complicated, but it's pretty much going to be, I think, the best of 4 games. But for me, it's exciting because it'll give the team motivation, number one, and it'll make everybody play like they have a stake in it. So where I look at, typically, it feels like the team is waiting until like February, to really take it up to the next level. I think the way that I'm understanding this could be a way that we get more consistent play across the year instead of what's the term they use, Rachel? Load management, all of that. Right? So it's kind of interesting. When we come back next week, I'll be able to tell you more clearly, because I'm studying on it, what this first time ever play-in tournament is going to look like.
I hate the idea. I'm like, that's what the regular season for. You have a play-in tournament in the playoffs. So I kind of don't understand it. George says, how many times have I said Evan Mobley is not a 3-point shooter? Please feed him the rock inside and let him score that way as a 7'10" jumper, not threes. I absolutely have to agree with that. And it's going to be interesting how this Cavs team comes together. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. You're listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. We will be right back.
Five years
on the airwaves through our terrestrial frequency of 95.9, our website WOVU.org, and our free mobile apps, which you can find right in your app store. We want everyone to come out and show out and celebrate with us. Saturday, November 18th, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. right here at 7201 Kinsman, the Bridgeport Place, Barton Bell Car headquarters, and the home of WOVU 95.9 FM.
we are giving away 500 tuckies and the fixies
And a few Cornish hens. There'll be lots of giveaways like WOVU t-shirts and tons to eat and drink, such as
hot dogs, chips, popcorn, waters, turkey soup, and hot apple cider with nothing in it.
there'll be loads of activities for the entire family, like horseback riding. Or you can dip off and play a game of virtual reality. The kids will be able to enjoy face painting
Balloon twisting, lots of giveaways.
and a health fair, because it is very important to check on self. And so much more. Just come, show up, grab your turkey, and enjoy the atmosphere with a whole bunch of free
Live entertainment. You already know what it is. Singers, rappers, hip-hop artists, dancers, poet, a band. You already know what it is. It's your boy DJ Chris Down.
So tell your friend, tell your neighbor, tell your family member, and Auntie Lottie Dottie and Pookie
about the biggest party of the year, Saturday, November 18th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Pull up on us November 18th. Celebrate 5 years with us.
What's happening, Cleveland? This is Detective Felton Collier, and I am the lead public safety recruiter for the City of Cleveland's Department of Public Safety. Are you interested in a job with fantastic pay and benefits? How about a change from day-to-day office life? Look no further, because Cleveland's Division of Police is now accepting applications for police officers. Why not enter the exciting field of law enforcement? We are constantly changing and progressing for the benefit of our communities. The Division of Police offers up to a $5,000 sign-on bonus. The academy pay is almost $25 per hour, and there is tuition reimbursement for those who have completed Ohio Peace Officer Training Academy. Plus, If you are a veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces and or hold a college degree, you can receive additional salary incentives. Call 216-623-5233 to speak with our recruiters, or go to clevelandohio.gov/jobs. Apply today and join our team.
This message was brought to you by Cleveland Public Safety Department and WOVU 95.9 FM. Our voices united, Burton Belcar Community Radio. Welcome back to Her in the Huddle with Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports.
All right, welcome back to Her in the Huddle, WOVU and 95.9 FM. This is your girl, Rachel Hill, First Lady of Sports, and I am here with Miss Sapphire, and we've been discussing some Browns. We've been discussing some Cleveland Cavaliers. We're going to move on to Ohio State really quickly, or maybe we should, this Rutgers game, I'm pretty much anticipating that, this is going to be an easy game for Ohio State, a game for them to be able to get back on track, a game for maybe Kyle McCord to not throw so many interceptions. This was the first time he's thrown interceptions since week 1. So I guess that's a couple of, that's a good thing. But, one of the concerns is about how did the team respond, and they responded very well. It wasn't a blowout against Wisconsin, but it could have, but minus those interceptions, you have to win the turnover battle. And they did, but, it could have been a bigger victory than it actually was. So, what are your thoughts about that Wisconsin game?
I mean, so where is McCord with injury situation? He was looking gimpy at the, near the end of that game. That's my first question. My second, did I hear correctly that Mayan is out? He had a knee surgery. He's going to be out for the rest of the season.
Yes,
right. I think about
for the rest of the season.
Right. How that's going to impact the game. For me, I am a huge supporter of Kyle McCord because I think I see it in him. But I also think the coaches really need to have hands on and help him mentally manage, that fight or flight in the game. I think it is incumbent upon the coaches to help him. So for me, I would, I expect that they will win the game. The question becomes, was what we saw last week indicative of how he's going to finish the rest of the year? Our schedule gets harder, right? And we need a quarterback that doesn't make us feel nervous. I'll say that. So I don't think that, in this moment, the coaches have helped him just have a good command of himself when he's out there on the field. So not like the Browns, but similar to the extent that, they just really need to take care of that, that quarterback. That's what I really feel about. So I expect the win for this week versus Rutgers.
Excuse me. I agree with you. You talked about his mental. So far, it says that he's fine and he'll be coming back. He'll be starting, on Saturday against Rutgers. So I don't know what the status of Devin Brown's injury is, because they probably could get up on Rutgers. I know I shouldn't talk as if, the game is won already, because this is Rutgers, CFP game. So
Yep, you're right.
I'm anticipating that, they will win this matchup very handily, and maybe you can get Devin Brown out there a little bit after Kyle McCord goes, after, they build up a lead and let Devin get some reps and stuff like that. But, I have to find out what that injury is with him, or if he's injured anymore, because, he left out of that game after being hurt. So definitely be interesting. So, but I'm anticipating that, this will be an easy game for them. They will be at Rutgers. So I'm anticipating that Buckeye fans will travel very well and they'll be represented. So I'm like, it's going to be hard to tell who the Ohio State fans and who the Rutgers fans are, because they both wear red. Same with Wisconsin and stuff like that too. So I'm like, how do you differentiate? Do you wear gray or something like that? But I want to move on and talk a little baseball right quick. So the Cleveland Guardians are looking for a new head coach. So I need to Google the contenders really quick. But Sapphire,
I hope they're looking for some good pitching. It always comes down to that for us. Our pitching. I mean, they could put you, as skipper. Okay, it's pitching.
I
This
got
is
a
on
mean fastball.
the.
Probably like in the, probably 10 miles an hour, but I could put some movement on it.
See, I'm more of a Wakefield type thrower, right? I got that funky movement on that fork ball, right? He made a living off of that. And real quick, while you're looking that up, while you're looking that up, I just wanted to go back and say I thought I also read that Devin's going to be out a couple of weeks because of that right ankle or lower extremity injury. So there's that.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure. So look, DeMarlo Hale is a contender. So that's one of the things. Sandy Alomar did not want to interview for the position, so I guess he's done being a first base coach. So the internal candidates would be Chris Valleca, a hitting coach. He's been in the major leagues for just 3 seasons. It seems like they're trending younger on coaches, so that might fit right up their alley. Carl Willis has been the pitching coach. So that's something that, could be looked at. Mike Sarbaugh, the third base coach, and I'm trying to find the new candidates for consideration. But we hadn't had a chance to talk about the Guardians since the season ended. But I know you said pitching, but what are some of the other things that you feel like they need in order to help push them back into the playoffs again?
I'll just say this very delicately because there's another show that I called in on, and I felt bad. It sounded like I may have body shamed Joshua Taylor, like a nailer. Just come into camp in shape. I just really wonder what their off-season training program is, because it's a long season, right? And for example, with Naylor, I don't remember the last time he finished a full season with us. So for me, honestly, it would be pitching, but also what are we doing in the off season, right? I think that we need new energy from the outside. Love the internal candidates, love you all, but like a Kevin Cash, he's coming from an organization that has recent success, right? Bring someone new in. It's just for me to recycle the same old, and I respect Sandy Alomar, right? What does that get us? It's about the culture. It's about, I hate to go all Deion Sanders here, but it's about the identity, right? We've been doing the same thing for how many years with Tito, right? And we've reached the level of success that we did. We're ready to take that next level. I do want the World Series back here, right? So those are the things that I think about when I think about the Guardians being remotely competitive.
Yeah, because you mentioned Kevin Cash, and he has 5 consecutive playoff appearances in the AL pennant and two Manager of the Year awards while operating on a shoestring budget. So that's something that could appeal to the Dolans because they believe in operating as cheaply as possible. So him being able to manage that, because I believe Tampa Bay has the second lowest payroll besides the Cleveland Guardians. So they want a manager that can manage, players and get the most out of them while paying them the least amount. Craig Counsell has been here, I believe, twice, and Craig Counsell is with the Milwaukee Brewers, so he's a Milwaukee Brewers manager. Also, Will Venable from the Baltimore not the Baltimore Red Sox, but the Boston Red Sox. Excuse me. So he might be a prime candidate for this role as well. And then you got some internal candidates. So it'll be very interesting to see what's coming up very soon with the Cleveland Guardians, because, the season, even though baseball is, almost over, the season comes very quickly around. And let's do your World Series pick, Sapphire. Who do you have? Do you have the Rangers or do you have the Diamondbacks?
I mean, I got to stick with the Diamondbacks, right?
Okay, I'm going with Texas since they don't have any titles and they don't have a World Series championship. So I'm rooting for the underdog.
I also want to go back to Venable. I mean, maybe from a cultural perspective, they bring him on, which could be a positive. So I just wanted to stick that in there. But you didn't mention your pretty boy that you would love to be the skipper.
Oh, Gabe Kepler.
Come on now.
I can't wait to interview him. But Sapphire, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. You know, so we'll see what happens with this big old matchup that they have tomorrow and tonight and tomorrow with the New York Knicks. But as always, thank you so much for being here. And you've been listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU and 95.9 FM, and we are out of here. Hey, so StreamYard worked, huh?
Is that okay?
Yeah, so StreamYard worked out good for you?
Yeah, it did. I still don't know where my car or house keys are, girl.
Are you serious? Your car?
My car and house keys. I got to turn this whole place. I have no idea where they're at. So I really appreciate you sent out StreamYard, but I want to try to get at you to give you these funds because you said that next NABJ meeting was this Saturday, right?
Yeah, it's this Saturday.
All right. So I got to find my keys first. Then I'm going to reach out and say, can I do a drive-by? Can we meet halfway? Something like that.